She abandoned him and their 5 kids. 10 years later, she came back and was stunned to find what he'd done without her. Stay tuned. You won't believe what she found. And tell us in comments where you are watching from. Darius Miller had always believed in family. He wasn't perfect, but he tried. And for years, he thought that was enough. Until the morning he woke up and Alicia was gone. No warning, no argument the night before. Just a folded piece of paper on the kitchen counter with 7 haunting words. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. She didn't just leave him. She left them. 5 children, Micah, Jaden, Layla, and the 2 youngest still too small to understand what the word abandoned meant. One was still in diapers. The other had just started kindergarten. The sound of silence in the house that day was deafening. The children asked questions he couldn't answer. Where's Mommy? Did we do something wrong? He didn't know how to respond, so he lied. He told them she needed time, that she loved them, that she'd be back. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And Alicia never returned. What followed was chaos. Darius had to quit one of his 2 jobs because childcare alone cost more than his paycheck. He barely slept. He burned dinners. He forgot permission slips. And yet, somehow, they survived. Each day began at 5 a.m., when the rest of the world was still quiet. He'd pour himself a cup of coffee in the same chipped mug Alicia used to love. That mug became a reminder, not of her, but of the life he refused to let fall apart. By 6:30, the kitchen was filled with movement. Pancakes flipping, kids arguing over bathroom turns, Layla crying about a missing sock. He never had time to finish his coffee. But the sound of their laughter, when it came, was everything. At the construction site, Darius found a strange sense of peace. The clanking of tools and roaring machines drowned out the worry in his mind. His supervisor, Harold, often shook his head. 5 kids, and you're still standing, man? Darius would just smile. No one knew that he sometimes cried in his truck during lunch breaks. Micah, his eldest, became his right hand. They matured far too fast, stepping into the role Alicia had abandoned. Micah helped with dinner, wrangled the younger siblings, and never once complained. But Darius noticed the toll, the quiet looks, the tired eyes. There were nights Darius thought he couldn't keep going, when he didn't know how he'd pay the bills or how he'd make it through another parent-teacher conference alone. But every time Layla wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "I love you, Daddy," it gave him the strength to fight another day. And he fought hard. He missed weddings, birthdays, promotions. While others built careers, he built a home from scratch. While his peers climbed ladders, he was holding hands at school drop-offs and wiping noses at bedtime. Then, 10 years after Alicia disappeared, everything shifted again. It was just another Thursday. He came home, kicked off his boots, and sorted through the usual pile of mail, bills, junk, school flyers. And then, he saw it. A letter. No return address. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Alicia. His heart stopped. His breath caught in his throat. 10 years, 10 birthdays, 10 Christmases, 10 first days of school. All without her. And now, here she was, reaching out. He didn't open the letter. Not yet. He stared at it as his children filled the kitchen behind him, laughing, yelling, bickering over who got the last slice of pizza. The life he had built without her suddenly felt like it was being challenged. The letter stayed sealed for days. Darius kept it in his jacket pocket, close enough to feel but far enough to ignore. At work, he felt it pressing against his chest every time he bent down to lift a beam or reach for a tool. He'd think about opening it, then shake the thought away. He wasn't ready. Then came another surprise. Late Friday afternoon, Harold called him into the site office. "Darius, close the door," he said with a grin. "I've got news." Darius stepped inside, wiping dust from his hands. "We've been watching you for a long time," Harold began. "You're consistent, reliable, quiet strength. We want to offer you the lead foreman position." Darius blinked. The promotion, more money. A salary that could finally put Micah through college, cover braces for Jaden, maybe even replace their rusted-out van. It was the kind of offer he dreamed about on nights when the power almost got cut off. But Harold wasn't finished. It'll mean longer hours, some Saturdays, a few overnights, more meetings, more responsibility. Darius nodded slowly. He knew what that meant: less time at home, more missed dinners, more parent-teacher conferences alone, more pressure on Micah to fill the gaps. He didn't give an answer right away. That night, He sat across from Micah at the kitchen table. The others had gone to bed. Layla's favorite stuffed bear lay forgotten on the couch. The kitchen was finally quiet. "I was offered a promotion today," Darius said, watching Micah's face. Their eyes widened. "That's amazing, right?" "It is," Darius replied, "but it also means I'll be around less." Micah paused, then offered a small smile. "We'll make it work, Dad. You always have." It was said with confidence, but Darius saw the weight behind those words. Micah had been holding this family together just as long as he had. Later that night, alone in his room, Darius finally opened the letter. It began like a confession. Alicia said she'd made mistakes, that she was overwhelmed back then, that walking out wasn't planned, it was an act of panic. She talked about therapy, about faith, about rebuilding her life. And then came the real message. "I want to see the kids. I've changed. I want to be part of their lives again. If you can forgive me, I hope they can too." Darius stared at the page. His fingers curled around the edges. Forgiveness. For the birthdays she missed. For the night terrors Layla used to have. For the tears Micah never let anyone see. For the shame Jaden carried when his classmates asked why his mom never came to school events. She wanted a second chance, but she'd never even asked what her absence had cost them. Darius folded the letter and set it on the table. He couldn't decide anything. Not yet. His kids had a right to know, and more than that, they had a right to choose. But deep down, something in his gut had already shifted, and this time, he wouldn't let emotion cloud his judgment. He had protected them for a decade, and he wasn't about to stop now. The letter sat on the dining table for 2 days, untouched but not unnoticed. Micah eyed it every time they passed by. Jaden once asked if it was important. Darius said yes, but not yet. He needed the right moment, not when the dishwasher was broken, not when Nia had the flu, not when he was too tired to speak clearly. Finally, on Sunday evening, he made the call. Dinner was quiet. Layla drew shapes in her mashed potatoes. Jaden talked about a class project. The 2 youngest giggled over a spilled cup of juice. Darius didn't say much. When the plates were cleared, he stayed seated. "Kids," he began, voice steady. "There's something I need to share with you." Micah tensed immediately. He picked up the letter and held it up. "This came in the mail last week. It's from your mother." Silence. Not a breath. Not a blink. "She says she wants to see you. Says she's changed. Says she's sorry." He didn't sugarcoat it. He read the letter aloud, word for word. His voice didn't shake, but his hands did. When he finished, he looked up. Micah's face had gone pale, their jaw clenched. "Why now?" they asked flatly. "Why not 10 years ago, when we needed her?" Jaden stared at the table, eyebrows furrowed. "Is she really coming back?" The youngest 2 didn't say anything. Layla curled into her chair like she was trying to disappear. Darius nodded slowly. "She reached out, but nothing's decided. I wanted you to hear it first, because this affects all of us. We're not a hotel she can just check back into," Micah said. The words were sharp, and no one dared respond. Later that night, Darius found Micah in the hallway, staring at a photo on the wall, a picture from 5 years ago, all 6 of them in matching holiday pajamas. "She wasn't there," Micah said quietly. "I know," Darius replied. "I don't remember the sound of her voice anymore." Darius didn't know what to say, so he stood beside them in silence. The next few days, everything felt off. Layla cried at school and couldn't explain why. Jaden kept asking questions Darius didn't know how to answer. Even the 2 youngest, usually so full of laughter, were quieter than usual. The weight of Alicia's letter had spread through the house like a storm cloud, quiet, looming, heavy. Then one night as Darius was tucking in Layla, she whispered, "Does Mommy still love us?" His heart broke. "I think she does," he answered. "But love isn't always enough." Layla blinked up at him. "Are you gonna let her come back?" "I don't know," he said, "but I promise, I won't do anything without you." And he meant it, because after 10 years of holding this family together, Darius wasn't about to let the past tear them apart. The house felt heavier with each passing day. Micah had gone quiet. Jaden was restless. Layla, who hadn't had nightmares in years, now crept into Darius's bed at night without saying a word. Even the air between them felt uncertain. At the construction site, Darius tried to keep his focus, but dropped tools, misread measurements, and stared too long into empty space. Harold noticed. "You all right?" he asked, pulling Darius aside. After a pause, Darius finally shared it. Their mom reached out after 10 years. Says she wants to come back. Harold raised a brow. 10 years? What does she want? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Harold didn't push. Just offered one quiet piece of advice. Whatever you do, protect your peace. That night, Darius sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at Alicia's letter again. The words hadn't changed, but the feeling they left behind, it had only grown heavier. He called a lawyer the next morning. After hearing everything, Alicia's disappearance, the letter, the emotional toll, the lawyer gave it straight. You've had sole custody for a decade. She has no rights unless a court gives them back. But if she pushes, you'll need to be ready. It was all Darius needed to hear. Back home, Micah was already one step ahead. I found her, they said, sliding a phone across the table. Darius leaned in. There she was, Alicia, on social media, smiling in pictures with strangers, but her captions told a different story. Financial help, pleas for second chances. A GoFundMe link titled Starting Over After Setbacks. She's not coming back for us, Micah said quietly. She's coming back because she's sinking. Darius stared at the screen, jaw tight. This wasn't about redemption. It was about survival. The next day, he hired a private investigator. I want the truth, he told him. No speculation, no gaps, just facts. The investigator nodded. You'll have it. At home, Jaden approached him that evening. Dad, if she wants to take us, can she? No, Darius said without hesitation. But what if she tries? Darius crouched down, looking him in the eye. She left. I didn't. And I won't let anyone undo what we've built. He meant it. Later that night, he watched all 5 of them sleeping. Micah still sitting up with a textbook. Jaden tangled in sheets. Layla clutching her stuffed bear. He had kept this family together through everything. And now that Alicia wanted back in, he'd do whatever it took to keep them safe. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Darius didn't recognize the number, but something told him to answer. The moment he picked up, a familiar voice, soft, uncertain, said his name. Darius, it's me. His grip on the phone tightened. Alicia. She got to the point quickly. I just want to see them, that's all. One meeting. Please. There was no apology this time, just desperation. Darius didn't respond right away. He let her words hang in the silence. Then finally, he spoke. If they don't want to see you, it ends there. No pressure, no surprises. She hesitated. Okay. He picked the location himself, a public park, familiar, neutral, a place with space to leave if it came to that. Micah didn't say much when he told them, just nodded, jaw clenched. Jaden asked the question everyone was afraid to voice. Do we have to go? You don't, Darius said. No one's forcing anything. But they all agreed. They needed to know. On the day of the meeting, the weather matched the mood. Gray skies, not quite raining, but cold enough to feel uncomfortable. Darius stood by the duck pond with all 5 children beside him. When Alicia finally appeared, she looked nothing like the woman who had walked out 10 years ago. Her hair was pulled back, her coat too thin for the weather. She looked older, tired, hollowed out. She approached slowly, eyes on the children. I've missed you all, she said, voice shaking. None of them moved. Micah crossed their arms. Jaden stared at the ground. Layla gripped Darius's hand tightly, hiding half behind his leg. Alicia kept talking. Something about being lost, about finding herself, about how hard life had been. But her words didn't land. They bounced off the years of absence like rain off a roof. Then Micah stepped forward. What do you expect from us now? They asked. It wasn't hostile. It was honest. And Alicia had no answer. The meeting didn't last much longer. There were no hugs, no tears. Just a heavy silence, broken only by the sound of ducks in the pond. As they turned to leave, Alicia whispered, I hope you'll let me try. But no one responded. Back home, the ride was quiet. The kids didn't argue. No one reached for music. The silence said more than words ever could. That night, Darius sat at the edge of his bed while Micah stood in the doorway. She didn't even ask how we've been, they said. Darius nodded. I'm proud of you, he replied. All of you. Because whatever Alicia was hoping for, it wasn't this. They weren't the same kids she had left behind. And this time, they weren't going to be broken. The silence after the park visit didn't fade. At dinner, no one spoke about Alicia. But the weight of that meeting lingered in every glance, every pause between bites. Even Layla, usually a fountain of questions, stayed quiet. Micah scrolled silently through their phone while the others ate. She looked like she needed something, they muttered. Not like someone who came back for love. Darius didn't answer, because deep down, he'd started to believe the same. 3 days later, the call came from the private investigator. "I've got something," he said. "You might want to sit down." Darius braced himself as the man spoke plainly. Alicia was in debt, deep debt. Credit cards maxed out, 2 lawsuits pending, an eviction notice filed 6 weeks ago. She'd been in and out of jobs, most of them lasting less than a year. And the GoFundMe page Micah had found? It was real and barely keeping her afloat. But that wasn't all. "She's mentioned your name," the investigator said, "to friends, to online forums. It's clear she thinks reconnecting with the kids might fix her problems." Darius leaned back in his chair, the phone still pressed to his ear. There it was, not a second chance at family, a lifeline. He hung up, the knot in his chest unraveling into something colder, clarity. That evening, he called a family meeting. The kids gathered around the table, the atmosphere still delicate. Darius laid down the report, letting them see the truth for themselves. "I wanted you to know what's really going on," he said. "No secrets, no pretending." Micah read silently. Jaden flipped through the pages, eyes growing wider. The younger ones leaned into Darius's side. "She's in trouble," Micah said quietly. "Yes," Darius replied, "but not for the reasons she claimed." Layla looked up, voice soft. "So she's not coming back because she loves us?" "No, sweetheart," Darius said, wrapping an arm around her. "She came back because she needed something, but this time we don't owe her anything." A long silence followed. The air in the house was still. After reading the report, the kids didn't ask more questions. They didn't need to. The truth had landed. Alicia hadn't returned for reconciliation. She had returned for rescue. And Darius had made up his mind. Later that night, after the others had gone to bed, he walked into his room, opened the top drawer of his desk, and pulled out a thick envelope, one he'd kept sealed for nearly 3 years. Inside were documents, carefully arranged, quietly built, painstakingly signed. The next evening, he gathered the kids around the dining table again, this time with something to show them. "I've been keeping this until the right time," he said, setting the envelope on the table. Micah raised an eyebrow. Jaden leaned forward. Darius opened it slowly, revealing paperwork with official stamps and signatures. "I've been saving, investing, planning for each of you. Not just for college, not just for emergencies, but for security." He paused. "I also worked with a lawyer to make sure none of you could ever be taken away from me." Micah's eyes narrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I legally adopted all 5 of you." Silence. Jaden blinked. Layla's mouth fell open. Even the youngest 2 sat perfectly still. "I wanted to make it permanent. No loopholes, no custody claims, no surprises." He looked around the table. "You are mine, by law, by heart, by every measure that matters." Micah swallowed hard. "You did all that without telling us?" Darius smiled softly. "Because love isn't loud. Sometimes it works quietly in the background, making sure you're safe, even when you don't know it." Jaden's voice cracked. "You didn't have to, but you did." "I had to," Darius said, "because you're my family, and I was never going to let anyone take that away from us, not again." Tears fell freely now. Layla climbed into his lap. Micah reached across the table and squeezed his hand. That moment didn't need music. It didn't need fanfare. It was everything they had been missing for 10 years, certainty. Not the kind spoken, the kind proven. In the weeks that followed, peace finally returned to the Miller home. Micah toured colleges. Jaden joined the soccer team. Layla went back to dance class. The younger 2 filled the house with laughter again. For the first time in years, they were free to dream, without fear of being disrupted. One evening, Darius brought out the last of the legal documents. He'd finalized every safeguard, adoption complete, finances secured, future protected. His promise to them had become permanent. Then a letter arrived. Alicia's handwriting. It was short, apologetic, honest. She admitted the truth, that she came back out of desperation, not love. She said she understood now, and that she wouldn't reach out again. Darius didn't reply. Through a mutual friend, he later learned she'd relocated, taken a job through a support program, and was trying to rebuild her life on her own. It was over. The door she left open had quietly closed. Back at home, everything felt lighter. Movie nights returned. Laughter echoed in every room. And when Micah stood in the kitchen one night and said, "You saved us," Darius just shook his head. "No," he said. "We saved each other." And together, they kept moving forward, stronger, wiser, and unshaken. Because this wasn't the family Alicia left behind. This was the family Darius built. Darius didn't just raise 5 kids alone. He built a foundation they could stand on for life. Through heartbreak, sacrifice, and quiet strength, he proved that love isn't measured by grand gestures, but by showing up every single day. He didn't need recognition. He needed them whole, safe, and free. And in the end, he gave his children something their mother never could: security without conditions and love without limits. Now let me ask you, what would you do if someone from your past suddenly returned after years of silence, asking for a second chance? Tell us in the comments. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the power of family, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories just like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.